Good evening, fellow traders. Today we have a special guest from the popular YouTube channel, The Disciplined Trader. If you don't know him already, his name is Luke Worrillow from the UK. His channel provides excellent trading and educational material to both the beginner and experienced trader. Luke, good evening from Australia and good morning to you over there in the UK. It's a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you very much, Lenny. Good evening to you over in Australia.
Thank you. All right, well, look, let's get things kicked off and underway. Obviously, I want to find out a little bit more about yourself, your trading experiences, and yeah, so, initially, first things first, simple question. I'd love to know, ultimately where you began your trading journey and what prompted you into trading initially in the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Trading, I didn't really start to get properly into until probably my early 20s. I know that sounds silly because that's, I suppose, quite an early age anyway, but I've always been someone that wanted to work for myself, sort of make my own money, and going through college and university, I was always on the lookout for something that I could do long term, but working for myself sort of thing. I actually studied policing at university, of all things.
Really? Wow.
And yeah, we've got like special constables over here, so it's like a voluntary police officer. It's bizarre, but you get 2 weeks training, and that's it, and you have all the powers of a regular police officer. So you are properly thrown in at the deep end. But wow. Yes, 6 months of that completely changed my opinion on that approach. And coming out of university, I've always had an interest in property, so I started working for a couple of property businesses, and then set up my own business when I left university. And then trading and stocks and the financial markets and everything has always been an interest ever since I was little. And then I guess as I got more free time, it's just something I looked more into, and then eventually started trading myself. Found it very difficult, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. But yeah, it was just, I guess, an interest that I always had that just, when time allowed, I eventually started to look more into.
So you mentioned there, you were drawn to obviously making money for yourself. Did you want that freedom and flexibility that trading offers you to be able to work from home or wherever you please? Was that one of the main reasons that you ended up shifting into this and trading full time, or?
Originally, no. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, as a kid, it was always, how can I make the most amount of money? It was, do you know what I mean? I guess a lot of young lads are probably like that. And it was whatever was going to make me the most money. And I think that's what initially attracts a lot of people, probably wrongly, is that this ability to make a lot of money, maybe relatively quickly. That was probably, if I'm being honest, what first attracted me to it. Yep. But as I've got older, approaching 30 now, it's like you say, that there are things that you become, you start to realize as you get older, actually, you don't need piles of money. You just need a certain amount of money, and having more free time to do things that you really enjoy is way better. And that's sort of where I've got to now, whereas trading, like you say, affords you that time. If you can get into a routine with it and get I like to be very mechanical about things, very regimented in a way. And if you can get a routine down like that works for you and pays you, then yeah, it does. It affords you a lot of time, which I love personally.
Yeah, 100%. Time is valuable. We only have exactly a limited amount of time. So yeah, I completely understand that. And I myself, I love my time more than anything else. So having those flexibilities to be able to shut up shop when you please for the day, or, if it is whether to head over to the beach in the afternoon. I know you guys over in the UK get a pretty narrow window in terms of enjoying the beach as opposed to us here in Australia, but it is what it is. Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, look, in regards to that, I'd obviously love to hear more about your trading experiences from the past. And one of the things I did want to ask you, typically early on throughout your trading career, and even to this day, what are some of the main challenges and obstacles you've had to overcome through your trading?
I think for me, and it's always been sort of the theme in the back of my head for the YouTube channel, it was probably the main driver behind the YouTube channel, is you're sort of thrown into the deep end. When you get into it, there's loads of companies that will take you on as clients and things, but none of them, and to be honest, I don't think it's their responsibility anyway, but make sure that you are 100% educated and know what you're doing, know the risks that you're taking, and basically just know how everything works. I remember when I first got into it, the first broker that I came into contact with was Trading 212. And it was probably just because they make it so easy to sign up for a demo account. They've got their online platform, which for someone that even never used a trading platform seemed to make sense to me. I think I've said to you before, I've spent a lot of time on computers working in other programs and things like that. And that's probably stuck me in good stead for when you come into something new like that. You notice certain things straight away, and maybe other people wouldn't. But yeah, that was the very first thing that I encountered. Then I found MetaTrader 4, started looking more into brokers, started looking more into what I was actually doing. As I mean, when I first started, I was just hitting buy and sell, and then you go out, play football or something on an evening, you come back to this trade that you placed just sort of willy-nilly, and it'd be up a couple of $1,000s or whatever it was. And you're like, this can't be this easy. Yeah. And then obviously as soon as you put real money into that, that's not how it goes at all. So yeah, that was the overriding thing. I think I just didn't know what to learn next or what I needed to know. And I think that's probably what a lot of people run into, and why it takes so long to get to a competent level with this, is because it's not like anything else. You go play football, for example, and there's a referee enforcing some rules, and everybody on that pitch knows the rules. Well, when you open a trading platform, there are no rules. You can trade as small as you like, you can trade as big as you like to a certain extent. Regulations have tried to minimize that, particularly with spread betting and stuff. But yeah, it's very weird. You've almost got open reign to do whatever you like. And I think that's where a lot of people, including myself, I just became really stuck, I guess, for a number of years, to be honest. It was quite tough. What about you? I know you trade as well. How did you find your early years?
Very, very similar experience. Coming in, clicking buy and sell, potentially over leveraging, or definitely over leveraging. Yep. Not necessarily having a trading plan from the beginning, but overall I was enjoying my experience through trading, and that caused me to dive into it more and more as time went on. And for myself, I'm a very curious person. I like to know how things work. I need to be good at everything I do, in a sense. I like playing my sport, and I've always had a competitive nature. And the thing with trading, there's no way around it. Yeah, you can't necessarily cheat when you trade. You have no one to answer to, and the only person you can hold accountable for your trading is yourself. And I quickly realized that from a young age. And over time, it's taught me patience. It's taught me a lot about money management, trade management, and the biggest thing is risk management. Yeah, I see all too often, I work with a lot of traders, and I have worked with a lot of traders over the years. And typically what you'll find, which will separate the newer trader from the experienced professional trader, is the newer trader will focus so heavily on profits, where if you look at the experienced professional trader, they obsess over their risk management, which is one of the big aspects I see in the differentiation to both. And I'm sure from you starting out, initially in the beginning, you would have gone through the exact same experience, and then you quickly learn to follow that risk management is pretty much the key aspect in terms of what needs to be paid most attention to throughout your trading. But would you have to agree in a sense, or?
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think to a certain extent, you could have a very, very simple strategy. And like you say, if you apply the right risk management structure and rules around that, I think even over, like I say, maybe even a moving average crossover strategy, something really simple. If you manage to risk well, then you could probably make a profit from that. Because what always astounds me is newer traders will always find a way to blow an account. I was quite lucky, to be honest, because I never actually blew an entire trading account. I remember when I first started, I was completely over leveraged. I think I lost at least a third of my account on one trade, and it happened so quick.
Yes.
It was like a blink of an eye, and I couldn't believe what had happened. And you sat staring at the computer, almost paralyzed, because you're like, what has gone on here? This hasn't happened in the practicing. Yeah, and it luckily just closed the trade, and I don't think I traded for a little while after that. But yeah, I completely agree. It's that risk. Everything's so exciting when you first start that I think you just want to be in trades. Like you say, you're making these profits relatively quickly. It's not really taxing you in the work department, because
Yes.
you literally press buy, you literally press sell. So yeah, it is weird. I did have a point as you was talking, but I've lost my train of thought now. I'm sure it'll come back. But no, 100% agree. Risk management, particularly as you develop and things become less exciting. I think that's when you really start to see your improvement, because that's what I was going to say is you can do everything right as a trader and still lose. And that's the weird thing. That's the thing you've really got to get your head around. We were talking the other day about gaming online. Like, I'm even obsessive with that. Like, if I'm rubbish at that, if I'm rubbish in my little group of friends at that won't stay that way for long. I will be the best in our group at some point. And trading, you can look back and reflect at what you're doing, obviously. And in the early days, there's loads of things you can pick on to improve. You might not be implementing your strategy right. Like you said, you might not be implementing your risk strategy right. There are loads of things you could be doing wrong. But once you get to a stage where you are doing most of those things right, you can still lose money. And that's just part of it. And I think some people really struggle to come to terms with, I can't control whether this wins or loses. And that's ultimately maybe what defeats them.
Yeah, definitely. So I had one of my mentors through the years. He said to me, Lenny, once your trading becomes boring, you're doing it properly.
That is it.
So,
that is exactly it.
Yeah, it's always something that stuck with me. And yeah, it was an interesting takeaway, to say the least. But yeah, I did want to find out a little bit more about you in terms of, what sort of style of trading you've adopted. Is there a particular style you've found best in regards to your own personality and the time that you have to dedicate to trading? And have you obviously experimented with a series of different trading styles over the years?
Yeah. To begin with, I was, when I first came to trading, and you're sort of looking around, you're taking tips and things from other traders online or bits and pieces that you can read. I always thought that I would be sat at the charts all day, maybe scalping, day trading. That really appealed to me at the time. And that's what I started doing. Maybe up to 4 years I did that. And I really, really wanted that to work. And then I think as I developed, I was realizing that this is probably what's holding me back is that I'm so frustrated a lot of the time, because you can either be, you can start a day, you can lose early doors, and then that you've got to then get your emotions in check, make sure that's not affecting the rest of your day. Or you could start 7 o'clock, you might have nothing to do until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's a really, really boring day.
Yeah.
If you've got nothing else to preoccupy yourself with, then that's when mistakes creep in as well, because I hate feeling unproductive, and sat there for 6-7 hours staring at a computer screen and doing nothing with that time is not something that suits me at all. And I think once I realized that, that's when I started to transition to a longer term approach, to a more swing trading approach. I don't trade only once a day. I know some people will only say look at the daily chart, and they'll make decisions once a day, set any orders that they need to set, manage any trades that they need to manage, and then come back maybe the next day. I like to be a little bit more involved than that, so I tend to trade off sort of the 4-hour daily and weekly charts are sort of where I do most of my analysis, maybe sometimes on the hourly, but really not very often. And that suits me way better, because then I can do what I need to do trading wise, and then I can go and use my time either productively or unproductively, but at least I'm using it somewhere else, and not just sat looking at a screen. So yeah, I think, and I think probably a lot of people are similar. I think a lot of people are attracted to this all action, sexy day trading approach that's going to make you loads of money. When, in my experience, because of the difficulties that come with day trading, it's definitely no more profitable, or not as profitable in my case, as swing trading, because it just allowed me to not get affected by the things that I personally get affected by. And just concentrate on what's important. So like you say, managing the risk, making sure that I know that my strategy is profitable, making sure that I know in what circumstances it works best. It gives you plenty of time to back test, which I think a lot of people overlook. And just, I'm a big advocate of just on doing that back testing, keeping it going, because even if you get to a stage where you've tested 5 years on the market that you want to test or whatever, and you know that it's profitable and you know what you're doing, keeping yourself familiar constantly with what your strategy looks like and what your entries look like. And even if the market's changing slightly, you might notice little nuances about how your trades are setting up or how they're running. I think it's just good practice to be doing that all the time. Maybe not sit on your hands too much. Just make sure that strategy that you're using, or that your approach that you're using, is always fresh in your head. You know it inside out. And I've always found that that's worked quite well for me. How about you? How has your trading developed through the years?
Before I go on to my own trading, I will say two things, because I asked you the question in regards to what suits your personality, and then you brought up the back testing and the demo account. So I feel like that's extremely important, the personality trait and aspect, because I've worked, as mentioned, with a lot of traders over the years, and every single trader has a different personality. And I frequently get asked, Lenny, what's the best trading style? And I can't give an answer to that, because what may make for you, Luke, may not work for me, in a sense, in regards to the way that I want to trade or approach the markets. And I've come across traders who may be impatient, they scalp and they day trade, and that's best suited to them. I've come across traders who they may have a full-time job. They don't have the time to be able to sit there and allocate their day staring at the charts. So they become swing traders or longer-term traders. So that's an extremely important component. And if you feel like your style doesn't match your personality, if you can't handle the anxieties that potentially scalping and day trading may bring, then you may have more or less a swing trading approach. So yeah, that's why I asked that question, and it was good to hear that feedback as you were doing. You were trading full time for 4 years initially in the beginning. You've experimented with the different styles, and you've found something that works for you now. And you also touched on the demo account. And the demo account's an extremely useful resource and like you said, back testing is heavily overlooked. And I always question, the newer trader when they come in and they're testing out strategies. If you are back testing and testing new strategies, then why are you using your real funds to do so? You can go in and use a demo account and not necessarily have to risk those funds, and pay close attention to your strike rate and how many trades you are getting right. And I know for one, and like you could say yourself, that the emotional aspect of demo trading is extremely different. It doesn't give you those anxieties that trading can bring on. It doesn't send those emotions running wild. That's something you'll obviously need to work on throughout your live trading. But if you're testing a new moving average strategy, if you're implementing a different price action strategy, or you're making adjustments to your risk management, then why not go back test in the demo and see if it works there first before you have your own live funds at risk? It's something that's never made sense to me.
No, 100%. And I think it comes back to what you said previously, in that once trading becomes boring, that's when you're really onto something. And I think that even applies to your back testing in your demo account, because I know if I'm really honest with myself, when I look back, there'll be times when I was back testing early doors, a strategy that I was using, I was almost trying to curve fit it to make it seem profitable. Even in the demo trading, even in the pretend trading, I didn't want to accept that this was going to lose. Yes. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. You look back and you think, well, who are you kidding? The only person you're doing over there is yourself, because if you don't know how this works, then how do you expect to do in the live markets? Because this is where you need to make your mistakes. And as that starts to sink in with you and that starts to make sense, those emotions that you mentioned in your live trading, they will disappear, because if you know how you're making your profit, because you've seen it in the back test, you've seen that this strategy that you're using is going to have losses. It's going to have days where it doesn't make money. It's going to have weeks, months where it doesn't make money. But over the long run, it does, because you've seen it. You've literally seen it and tested it with your own eyes. Then when you're in that live environment and you're placing that trade, however much risk it is, hopefully by this point you've got to a stage where you're not daft with your risk, and you're not risking too much. But that anxiety, it shouldn't be there, because you know how this works now. This is just the cost of doing business in this particular thing. If you run a business in any other aspect, you're going to have costs, and losing trades are simply those costs. We don't really have anything else. You can pay for trading software if you like, and things like that, and I guess they are costs too. But the day-to-day running costs of this trading business, which is sort of how I see it now, is the losing trades. And yeah, the frustrating thing about it is you can't quantify when you're going to get these costs. You could have a month where you don't have any. You could have a month where you have loads. That sucks, I know. But as soon as you get used to that, like you say, as soon as that becomes boring, then you're winning. You're off.
Exactly right. You made a few really good points there, and you referred to trading as a business in a sense, right? And it is that. If you are doing it full time from home, effectively, that is your business. So yeah. In respects to that, for the trader out there who doesn't necessarily have a plan put together, would you open up a business without a plan?
Exactly.
Don't think you would.
Exactly.
Right? I think you would have a sound plan in place before you go and open that business and stick to it to hopefully reap the rewards that it can give you, just as trading would. All right. Look, more or less, I want to touch on the YouTube channel as well, right? Familiar face. I've caught a fair few of your videos and picked up a few tips and tricks. So initially, in the beginning, what prompted you into starting up the channel, and what are some of the main joys and challenges you've had in respects to having your own channel and being in the limelight in front of people and exposing yourself and your trading to the world?
I love it, to be honest. It's brilliant. I'm very glad I started it when I did. I was reflecting on it just the other day, actually, and the overriding theme for the channel was the fact that I wanted to sort of provide one place where people could get the basic information that they needed to start trading early doors. Because I know when I first started, I used a couple of teachers, and they were very focused on how they traded. So that wasn't necessarily bad, because it introduced you to trading strategies and things like that. But they almost taught it in that this is how you trade and this is it. So, that might be one particular strategy, a couple of technical analysis methods, and one particular risk strategy. And that's all you learn, rather than saying to someone, look, these are the things you need, but there's no hard and fast rules about what these things actually need to look like. This can come in many guises. There's loads of ways to make profits in the markets. There's not just one. But these are the things you really need to educate yourself around and understand why you need them and how they work. And I never had that when I first started. It was almost just things eventually started to click into place. Like, now I understand that. Now I understand why this guy did this. And it all started to click into place, rather than someone just in layman's terms explaining what you need to do and why. And that's always been the aim with the channel. I did a lot of explainer videos, tutorial videos to begin with, around basic concepts around trading. So talking about win rate, I was actually watching back some through the videos early doors. I think you were asking me about it the other day, and I didn't tend to talk on camera. It was just talking over slides. And I was impressed with the information in there, having not looked at it for years. I was quite happy with the information that I covered, but it was so boringly delivered. It was so dull to watch that the few thousand people that have actually watched those videos and enjoyed them, I take my hat off to them, because they must have been properly committed to sit through 10 minutes of me droning over some slides. So yeah, that's the challenge with it, is I let people email me, and they can obviously contact me in the comments if they want. I'm happy to speak to whoever when it comes to trading. But the frustrating thing is when you get in touch with someone who you can see he's having these textbook beginner problems, and because I'm not sat with them, because I'm not on a phone call with them, because I'm not, there's only so much you can do from 2,000 miles away. a computer somewhere else to change this person's whole perspective around trading. So that's the difficulty. That's the bits that sort of get to me in a way, because I can be speaking to people over email and I can sort of get a sense of the problems that they're running into, and I'll do my best to explain to them the problems that they're having and how to overcome them. But some of it is experience, and some of it's just difficult to do over email or the mediums that we've got. So it's good in a sense, because it sort of guides where the channel's content goes. So if I'm talking to some people and I can see that they're struggling still, then that might guide a particular video topic or something. But again, you can't control what people consume or what they find interesting. Going back to the trading style, I know when I first started, swing trading seemed totally boring to me. There'd have been nothing you could have said to me early doors to convince me to take a swing trading approach. I wanted to day trade, and that was it. And even though now I can look back and go, well, that never ever fitted my personality. Like, that was never a good fit. Nothing you could have said to me, really, I don't think at that time would have changed my mind. So that's sort of the frustration with the YouTube channel, is that I know I can't help everybody. And I think longer term, I would like to have some sort of platform or medium where I can have a more positive impact directly on people's ability to trade, rather than just providing content on YouTube. But we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, in respects to what you said, I don't have my own YouTube channel, but I do work directly with traders each and every day. And one of the reasons that I love the role that I do is I put a major coaching and training element on new and experienced traders. Yeah. So obviously I'll highlight any of the underlying issues they may be facing in regards to their charting or their risk management, and try and implement, new ideas or whatever it may be to assist. And once traders start to find their own feet, and they're more or less coming to me in regards to, ways in which they're approaching the chart, or the fundamentals, or new ways in which they're handling their risk management and trade management, I get a big kick out of that. As I'm sure you would as well, through comments or emails or text messages or phone calls you may receive from your viewers. I can definitely relate in that respect to the joy it brings. So quite similar in both aspects, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm sort of jealous of the interactions, I guess, that you can have with some of your clients, because in a weird way, there's like 35,000 people subscribed to the channel now, which is a bit mad, but it's almost impossible to help that many people. So like you say, when you get a nice comment back, it's great. But then there's the other side of it, where I can only have so much effect on that person. Whereas, like you say, with yourself, if you're talking directly to clients and you're actually getting that feedback and seeing that feedback in their trading, that must be really cool. I would love to be able to have that sort of impact on other people's trading too. But what would you, out of interest then, what would you say are the main sort of problems that you run into with the traders that you speak to, the newbies, I guess? What are the main things that they struggle with?
Just like we mentioned, the number one is the risk management. Over leveraging, not necessarily having a sound approach to the position sizing they're taking on and how much they're risking per trade. Potentially risking a major portion of their account balance on one particular position. And then it brings the emotional aspect into it as well, because trading's not necessarily like anything you've ever done in your life. No. And it brings a new element of emotions to it. So the point that I'm getting at is, how well do you handle taking a loss? Do you then go back in and revenge trade the market with any clear confluences of taking a new position, and then that ends up causing your trading to spiral out of control for the day or the week or the month or whatever it may be? They would have to be the biggest issues, not necessarily so much in the way people approach the markets or approach the charting. I will generally find that a lot of traders will get the direction correct, but initially in the beginning, they haven't necessarily set their trade up properly. And by properly, I mean back in regards to their risk management. Yeah? Where are they putting their stop losses? Where are you putting your take profits? Is there a good level to risk reward? Are you risking way too much on a singular position, knowing that if you get it wrong, you're going to wipe out a major portion of your account? And once these things start to kick in and you start to take away the greed element and more or less the growth element, and how long can I do this for and make it sustainable, then that's when the approach really starts to change. But for most, that light bulb moment might not go off straight away. It can take a fair bit of time, as you and I are both probably fully and well aware of trading, in our early 20s. It did take me a while, and it does take a lot of people a while for that light bulb moment to go off. And you hear it, not just us sitting here talking about it today. You can go through many educators and many mentors and people who sell education and all the rest of it, and they're all going to come back and say very, very similar things.
That's a great point, and I get the sense you're a lot like me in that if I'm not good at something, or if I'm not getting something, it almost annoys me to the point where I then double down and do you know what I mean? Then I have to nail it because it's doing my head in. So, but like you say, there's quite a lot of rubbish out there as well around how quickly you can get this down. Like you see some people say you can do this in a couple of months, and there is no way you're going to do this in a couple of months, because even just from the things that you need to learn and understand in order to do this, that takes its time in itself. But like you said there, this isn't like anything you will have done before. There are very little experiences that I had in my past before doing trading where I was like, oh, well, this is similar to that. I'm using similar skills that I would use in trading. And there aren't any. It's really weird because like I said earlier, there are no rules. You can do what you want. And for most people, that just ends up in them blowing up their account because there is no guidance. There's nothing telling them that they can't do that. So they will test it, they'll do it. And that seems like the quickest way to make money. So yeah, I'll risk 20% on this trade because I feel it in my bones. This one's going to be a good one. It's like, that's not how it's done. So yeah. And I think taking ownership of that, it can be a big problem, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you is, I spoke to quite a lot of people and they almost get to a point where they start blaming brokers for their lack of success through, I don't know, whether they think that brokers are hunting their stops or whatever. And again, that comes back down to a lack of understanding, I think, a lot of the time. But it does astound me that so many people are quick to jump to sort of this lack of ownership thing in their misperformance within the market. So they just rather blame somebody else, or, that's not my fault that I lost. When it isn't your fault you've lost, but understand why it's not your fault. Don't blame somebody else. Just educate yourself further and get to the point where you understand that the losses are going to come. Don't blame brokers. So have you ever had any clients that have really sort of maybe got angry or upset with yourselves trying to blame the brokerage?
Look, there's always going to be an element where, yes, unfortunately there is traders that are going to lose money, and losing money is not pleasant for anyone, and that can get your emotions running hot. Now, I've worked for a series of brokers, and I've never been in the direct firing line of somebody accusing the broker for their misfortune and their losses. Now, I know there are other people in the position that I'm in that have, but initially, in the beginning, when I have a new client, I make it as clear and as transparent as possible that they should only be risking initially what they can afford through their trading. In respects to that as well, I have had the joys to work for service-based brokers where the main thing is we put a strong emphasis on education and coaching. So in regards to that, I can go through the education and the coaching in the beginning to understand they have a sound understanding of risk management and the risk that trading entails. And through it, from there moving forward, I make it clear that any trade that is placed is on them, and they do need to understand in terms of the risk that they are taking before they enter any trade. Because effectively, and it's our motto here, every trade matters. And it does, because your funds are on the line. So, in regards to that, we're dealing with adults. We're trading with adults. You need to be over the age of 18 to trade. And if you are, you should be able to understand the risk you're taking. And if you do get a trade wrong, that's on yourself. And a big part of it here in Australia, we are a heavily regulated broker, and there isn't any point in which we can give personal advice or direction to a trader. We can give general advice and go through, the current drivers in the market and the fundamentals causing the price action in which we are seeing. But ultimately, the position size, the stop losses, the take profits, everything the trader chooses to do is completely on them. So yeah, in respects to that and the way I've approached all my clients, I've been lucky enough not to come in the crosshairs of somebody blaming me or the broker direct for their misfortunes if they have lost money.
I'm glad to hear that. So then, because one thing I encounter a lot is the unrealistic expectations traders have in what they expect their trading is going to look like in 3-6 months from when they start, and then 3-6 months down the line, they're absolutely nowhere near it. And it's usually because, through platforms like Instagram or even Twitter, even YouTube to an extent, they've seen these unrealistic visions of what trading will look like for them 3 or 6 months down the line, maybe 12 months down the line. And then when they get there, there's this sort of animosity, there's this anger that that's not what's happened. Do you see that a lot? Because the brokers that I've used previous, the customer service levels, the relationship between the broker and the client is never been anywhere near what I've experienced with you guys. Like you talking there about the relationships that you've got with the clients. I've used 5 or 6 brokers previous to you guys, and I've never ever had probably a tenth of the conversation that me and you have had with that particular brokerage. They don't care really. You're just another number for them. So it'd be interesting to see, given how close you are with your clients.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that regards, it's unfortunate that we see the influencers, as you would call them, or trading, opposing trading gurus, taking pictures behind Lamborghinis and stacks of cash. That's not always necessarily the reality behind it. And another thing, as you mentioned to me, if I've ever come in the crosshairs or the broker being blamed for client losses, where I'm very transparent, and in respects to that, I'm not going to sit here and promise you percentage of gains over a month, a year, or a day, a month, whatever it may be, where there are brokers out there who will do so. They will promise you gains, and they don't necessarily highlight the risks. And unfortunately, there are people that fall for things like that, and it's extremely unfair. And yeah, I come across it quite regularly, in all fairness, because I'm not limited to one particular region. I work with clients all over the world, and there are brokers all over the world. So in regards to that, I believe it's always extremely important to do your due diligence, find out which broker you are working for, you may be looking to work alongside and trade with. So a strong emphasis on doing your homework in regards to how you would go about picking a broker, which led to a question that I did want to ask you tonight. You've obviously traded with a series of brokers, as mentioned. What are some of the key things that you look for in a broker, and what are some things that if you do see, you may avoid altogether in terms of trading with a particular broker?
For me, it comes down to just really the customer experience side of it. There's people ask me this a lot. It's probably one of the most asked questions I get via email and things is, I need a broker. Who would you say? And usually I would just say, well, it depends really, because it depends what markets you want to trade. It depends to a certain extent where you are sometimes. But for me, I mean, if the broker is approachable and wants to actually take care of the clients, then I would rather pay a little bit extra in fees, and spreads and things like that, to have a broker like that than a broker that's maybe trying to sell me the lowest spreads. But withdrawing any money out of that account is like getting blood from a stone. Do you know what I mean? You do hear about it, or you can never get anybody on the phone. You can never get anybody on email if you've got any problems. That's when you find out, I guess, whether your broker's any good. And to an extent, you just have to do your research. find somebody, maybe find a company that has reviewed well, other people have had a good experience with, and then just try them. If they've got the markets that you want to trade and they look a good fit for you, then give them a try. If it doesn't work out in 3-6 months time, there's nothing holding you there. You can obviously always move your money elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, with you guys, like as I always say in the videos, it's the customer experience we get from you guys. It is just by far the best I've ever had from a brokerage firm. Yeah, it's been really, really good. I've really enjoyed.
We appreciate that kind feedback, and that's why I obviously, for one, enjoy working for ACY Securities and being a part of their growth, because ideally the business model is to obviously attract new traders, yes, but be able to hold on to those traders longer term. Yeah, there's no point in bringing a new trader on who starts trading with you, and then ultimately they don't necessarily have any guidance or know where to start. And then, a few weeks later, they more or less give up on trading altogether. Same goes for the experienced trader as well. If they're looking to reach out, they're needing that level of customer support. Trading can become, and as you would know, an extremely lonely business. So even just to have somebody else over the phone to have a general chat about your trading and the markets is something that could be valuable to a lot of traders out there. And these are the things we offer. And we want to have our traders trading with us long term. For one, it creates a better trading experience to the trader himself. And from a business perspective, it's good for ACY Securities, holding and maintaining traders longer term. So it's a win-win.
100%. I mean, the broker I was with previously, I only spoke to them a couple of times on the phone, but you could tell the person you were speaking to, yeah, they worked at a brokerage, but they didn't trade. And that's maybe not a criticism of them. Not everybody should trade, but it is good to talk to someone like yourself who's not only familiar with trading, but also, does this themselves, really understands the problems that you're facing, maybe the pitfalls that you might fall into, and can actually offer some genuinely good advice for you starting out, rather than this is MT4, here's your account, off you go.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Hopefully you don't lose all your money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. You guys have been great.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to break it down a little bit in terms of what's happening with the market at the moment and get a little bit of insight. Any in particular pairs that you focus on? What do you enjoy trading the most? Because I get asked this question all the time from new traders. They ask, what's the best market to trade? Now, I don't necessarily believe there is an answer for that question, because obviously there is going to be opportunities that can arise, whether you're trading commodities, cryptocurrencies, cross-currency pairs, metals, whatever it may be. So yeah, if you don't mind touching on the key pairs you've focused on and your current view on the market at the moment.
It comes back to what we were on about earlier for me, is that there is no one way of doing this. And I agree with you. I get that question a lot. I also get, what's the best time frame to trade?
Yes, very common question.
Yeah, and when you first started, it sounds like a good question. And then obviously when you get to the point where trading is boring and everything's routine, it sort of sounds like a silly question in a way, because the best time frame to trade depends on what you're doing in other aspects. If you're taking a swing trading approach, trading once a day, the 5-minute time frame's absolutely no use to you. Like, no information to be had there. So when I first started, like I say, I was day trading. So I was predominantly trading on a 5-minute, 15-minute, and I think an hourly time frame. So it was sort of the only ones I was using, and I would be trading. I think I started with sort of the major Forex pairs and then expanded out to sort of the 28 sort of major and minor, like say the cross currencies, and did that for quite a while with next to no success in that whatsoever. I then started to sort of narrow that focus again. I think I dropped down to just the major pairs for a while, and then I eventually ended up just focusing on one market. I was focusing on the FTSE 100 for a long time, and because you were day trading, that was not too bad. You got enough setups throughout a week, say, to make that worthwhile. You could keep your eye on other markets if things were quiet, but most of the time you didn't need to. but again, when I started to move away from day trading, been at the screen all day, then you can't just rely on one particular market or even 2 or 3 particular markets, because you'll be doing next to nothing for most of the time. So nowadays I trade probably 28 major and minor pairs. In the Forex markets, I'll look at most of the indices, gold, silver, sometimes oil. So a big bunch of them, really. And again, it comes back to your approach to the markets. I'm not really bothered around the fundamentals around any of these markets. I sort of keep myself up to date with what's going on, but I don't do it in such a way that it then affects my trading ideas going forward. If there's big news announcements coming up that's going to affect a particular currency, for example, the US dollar, for example, then that might affect how I manage the risk in a particular trade, but it's not most of the time going to have a direct impact on what I'm doing. If the news announcement's very close to a trade setup I'm looking at, I might just wait and see what it's doing after the news announcement. But realistically, a lot of what I do is purely technical. So I'm aware of, like I said, the fundamentals, but it doesn't have too much of an impact. How about you?
For me, being in traditional finance, I have a vast knowledge, and I pay particularly a very strong focus on the fundamentals and how they're playing out. Yeah, that's more or less if I'm looking into longer term trading, in a sense.
Yeah.
The reason for that, I want to know how could the market potentially shift based off fundamental reasons. But for myself, just like you, I've experimented with different trading styles. I don't necessarily stick to one particular trading style like yourself. You mentioned you're mainly swing trading at the moment. I will go looking for different setups, and when I have the time, it might be trading a London Open and looking at just short-term price action trades on a lower time frame chart. And then other times, if I believe a currency or a particular instrument is good value, then I will go in and set up a longer term trade. So for me, it's very situational. I don't necessarily have one direct approach anymore, where before I was quite set in my ways and the way I did things. But I have flexibility now in regards to my own trading, and everyone's different. That may not work for everyone. Some people need to have it clear cut, precise, and they do the same thing each and every time. Where, yeah, I'm a little bit different in that regards.
No, that's exactly it. And it comes back down to the personality again. I'm, from being a small child, very numbers based. Like I've always been very mathsy throughout everything that I've done. So if I can crunch some numbers when I'm doing something, I'll do that for sure. To know what I'm doing, down to every little thing actually drives my partner mad. But if that's what suits your personality, then great. Like you're saying, how you trade there probably wouldn't suit me so well. I'd find myself second guessing myself maybe stages, whereas I like to have this data to fall back on to a certain extent to give me that reassurance, to provide me with that stability, my confidence in what I'm doing. So yeah, like you say, it just comes back to that personality thing and knowing what you're doing. So that sounds good.
I think if there was a key takeaway between us, I think as we would have learned over the years, and we keep harping on it tonight because it is so important, is we would manage our risk effectively through each trade. And correct. I'm sure, like myself, another aspect that I didn't necessarily pay attention to in the beginning, and if you wouldn't mind going over yourself and your experience, is the importance of trade management also.
Yeah. I think the first sort of trade management I encountered was the guy that taught it was set and forget. So you just set your risk, you set your take profit, and away you go. And because it was as simple as that, and again, it wasn't delivered in that this is something that you need to educate yourself on and find out more about. It was, this is trade management. You just do this. So it wasn't until later on when you're like, oh, this guy does it differently, and this guy does it differently as well, that you realize this doesn't have to be the answer to it. Find what works for you. But yeah, trade management is just another cog in, again, that whole machine really that makes your strategy and approach to the markets. Is if you get one of these things wrong, then things are going to start to go south a little bit, and that's just another one of them. It's just another one of those pieces in that puzzle, really, and it just needs some time investing in it. It's like a separate aspect of the back test that I will do for a particular strategy will be the management around that strategy. So what happens in A scenario, what happens in B scenario, what happens in C scenario? Does the take profit change if this happens? Does the stop loss change if this happens? So again, I have sort of some hard rules for certain situations that if X, Y, Z occurs, then I will do A, B, C. So yeah, how about you?
Me, a little bit more free reign in the way I take on my approach, but in respects to trade management, again, because I don't necessarily adopt one particular style, the way I manage each trade, whether it's a day trade, a shorter term trade, or a swing trade, I will manage them all in a similar aspect, just on the higher time frames. One thing that I would have to harp on in regards to trading is obviously, yes, we're here to make profits, but capital preservation is a major part of it as well. Yeah. So, in respect to that, take the opportunities that the market give you and don't be afraid to potentially take some off the table. Do a bit of profit taking. If the time comes, if you're feeling uncertain, you think, oh, stuff it, I'm just going to hold on. Hopefully it gets to this point where it may be reaching a short-term level of resistance, or there could be a major news event that could alter the direction of your trade. Then I will back away from that. I'll take some off the table and make sure that I can reward myself and pay myself for the efforts that I have put into my trading, because that's extremely important.
Yeah, and I completely agree. It comes back to what we were saying earlier. You need to know what it is you're doing. You need to know what it is you're trying to achieve and how your strategy or how your approach pays you. I'm starting to look more and more into longer term investing in other things. Like trading's not the only thing that I do to bring in money to pay the bills. I do a whole host of things, but knowing how that particular thing works, where its pitfalls are and where its profits are going to come from is really important. But I think people want almost instant gratification with a lot of things that they do. A book I was reading recently used a quote from someone, I don't know who it was, but it said people will overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that can be a hard thing to understand when you're 20 years old, because the only real experiences you've had, long-term experiences, would be education, really. You don't have any work career or anything to go back on and say, well, look, 10 years ago I was doing this and look where I am now in this work capacity or this project capacity that you've took on yourself. This thing that you decided to do. We're all made to go to school, so it's not really the same. But I think that's totally true. I know when I was late teens, early 20s, I was just in a rush, all the time in a rush. And
as we are.
I know, you look back now and you think, where's the rush coming from? Do you know what I mean? Where's the bomb? I have no idea. And taking your time and really understanding what it is you're doing and knowing that if you do this right, yes, it's boring, but do the little things right. And 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you're going to be so much better off than you realize for that little bit of discipline day to day. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest light bulb moments, I guess, for me as I've got a little bit older and carried on doing this.
Excellent. Very good. Just like you were saying then, right? And obviously from what I gather, we're both quite competitive people, and patience is a huge element, and it's not going to happen overnight. And I think I learned a lot of that by playing one of the most frustrating games on the planet, and that would be golf. It's not a game you can simply pick up a golf club and be good at overnight. It took me years of practice and playing as a junior to become somewhat of a decent golfer in a sense. And I think that applied to my trading in a sense as well, because golf is a game you have to be patient with. And there was many times being a teenager that the temper tantrums came out when I had a bad round. And that reflected in my trading early on when I would place a bad trade and I couldn't handle that feeling of being wrong. But as time went on, I learned to understand that I'm going to hit a bad golf shot. How do I recover from there? I am going to place a bad trade, and how do I recover from there also? So in regards to that, I take it you've played sport early on in your days as well. Is there any takeaways from sport that you may have been able to implement into your trading as well, or?
It's a funny one because the main sport I played is football, and I played that from when I could kick a ball. I've always played football, but I think because I've always played it and I've been relatively, okay, I've had a few trials and things over in the UK, played semi-decent levels like county levels and stuff over here. So I don't know. I think because I've done that as a kid and never ever stopped to think about it in the same way I would with my trading or something else or a business that I run, I never stopped and applied the same sort of mentality I would to my football, to my other things as I did my football. And now I've got to this age and my legs are starting to hurt after every game and I can't run as fast as I used to be able to. I'm almost a little bit sad about that I didn't take maybe more of a serious approach to it. But then again, you can look at it from a different way, is that with football, I never didn't enjoy it. I can genuinely look back at every aspect of that sport career. I mean, never paid or anything, but just pure enjoyment. And the whole thing was enjoyable. And I think a lot of, myself included, but a lot of people, when they do something new, they don't enjoy the journey of that. So like you were saying about your golf, I know you're quite good at it now, but as a kid, if you do something wrong, maybe like say the temper tantrums come in, but it's almost like you need to, don't forget about enjoying what you're actually doing. It doesn't really matter what stage you're at. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick at it. And I think that's the things that I always take into the new things that I do now, is that there's a guitar hung up behind me. I'm determined to try and get decent at that. When I pick it up again, it'll be my third proper time at trying. But again, when I first started trying to learn that guitar, I was just in a rush. I want to be playing songs that I know. And I don't have the dexterity. I've literally never played an instrument in my life. The only things that my hands are good for is playing on the PC. So yeah, I'll get there. But I know next time I pick it up and I've got the time again every week to dedicate to it, that I will just enjoy that process of getting better and not rush myself, I guess. So that's the thing I take away from the previous things, including sport, I guess. For the future things that I do, including my trading.
That's a great point. There's a process to getting better. It's so true, whether you're playing sport or you're trading. You'll start to see it. The more effort that you put in, then obviously the more you will get out of something. I would like to hope. And the same goes for your trading. I see all too often people think that trading's easy. It's not. It's not the easiest. Yep. In theory, it's easy. It's clicking a button and looking at a chart, but it depends how well you can handle yourself emotionally and how disciplined you are. One of the most common things I hear is, "Damn, Lenny, I broke my own rules last night." And it is what it is. We can easily do that. It's just like going on a diet. I'm not going to have that donut today. And then, it's there in front of you, it's tempting, and you take it and you break your own rules, and you have to obviously hold yourself accountable. And in soccer, you were playing a team sport. Golf's a solo man sport. So the only person I could blame for hitting a bad shot was myself at the end of the day. I think that's where a lot of my discipline started to come into it. And my dad was always quite hard on me in the early days. Keep your head screwed on, be a good sportsman, stay competitive with yourself, and make sure you're enjoying the sport. I've always taken that with me through anything that I do now. I feel like that's extremely important. So we've got some pretty similar personality traits that we're displaying. But look, to wrap it up, right? I know with your YouTube channel, I'd want to ask you, where do you see yourself taking it from here? Is there any major future plans that you have for the channel that viewers could be excited to be a part of and watch in the coming future? Or
to be honest, like I say, I'm usually with the YouTube, I'm just guided by the interactions that I have with people on the channel or via email or whatever it is. I'm getting to a point now where I'm getting more and more free time, which is nice. The initial property business that I used to run, I have less involvement in now, and we're doing other bits and pieces on the side and stuff. So yeah, I guess, like I was saying earlier, I would like to have more of an direct impact on people's ability to trade. So that's something I'm sort of gearing up towards being able to do. I put on the channel at the start of the year, I'd like to have some sort of community of people that I maybe interact with a lot more frequently, maybe a daily basis, and build a community around people that want to learn and get better. Because I think people don't just want my experiences. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about my experience in trading. And to a certain extent, like we were saying, personalities are different. And actually, my experiences and my views on things might not be particularly helpful for some people. But being able to connect with other people that are similar to them or see things similar to them, they might be able to say, well, actually, have you thought about this like this? And then they have that light bulb moment and they're like, no, I haven't. And no one's ever said it to me like that before. Or no one's ever, portrayed it like that to me before. And that just works for them. We're all different at the end of the day. So yeah, doing something like that would be really cool. I'd like to do that. And I don't know really other than that. See where it takes me, I guess.
Bit of free reign.
Bit of a free reign, yeah. I mean, that's how it started. There was no overarching objective with it. As you mentioned before, trading's pretty lonely. And when you do start, when you swing trading, there's not tons to do every day. It doesn't preoccupy me all day. But it's nice to stay in trading mode. It's nice to carry on thinking about all things trading. And yeah, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon or anything. So yeah,
well, it's
looking forward to what the rest of the year brings.
Awesome. Well, it's a skill that can be a part of you forever, pretty much, given that the markets don't disappear and vanish.
Exactly. That's it. That's
right.
it.
Look, let's wrap this up. I did want to one final question. If you could give either a new trader or experienced trader one piece of advice to take away, what would you have to say?
It probably the themes we probably spoke about, but like you say, that don't get obsessed with the now. Sort of invest in yourself. Don't rush yourself. It's about you improving your ability one step at a time. We touched on it earlier with the influences outside of trading from people on Instagram, YouTube, social media in general. It's easy to be measuring yourself against these people, but like with your golf, if have your own little wins in what you're doing. Golf's a great example. I know because I played a little bit as a kid, but when you're first starting, just chipping a ball onto a green, it would give you that same feeling of a really good golfer maybe getting a hole in one. Do you know what I mean? Have your own wins. Don't always be comparing yourself to where other people are in their particular journey with whatever you're doing. So if you're brand new to trading, don't be thinking that you're going to be this guy on the internet who's raking in all these profits every month, because that's not where you are, and that might not even be realistic for starters. Don't be duped by the people and the information that's out there. Use your common sense. Trading's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is potentially, if you do it right, just an income stream, something that you can pay you semi-regularly. And if you do it right, it'll be there forever, and it will grow as you grow with it. Compound interest and everything like that. As your accounts grow, as your confidence grows, things will get easier with it. Yeah, I guess that was a bit of a ramble rather than one point, but I mean, I guess
all
just
relevant,
take it slow.
all relevant points, all relevant.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
how about you? What's your one piece of information for traders when they start?
Well, initially in the beginning, to stay patient. Yeah, to take focus in regards to what they're doing and understand that there is a level of element that they need to, an element of effort that they do need to put into it. It's not just as simple as, depending on what style of trading you're doing in a sense, but, it may not be as simple as just logging on, once a week and looking at the chart, clicking buy and hoping for the best. It's not always going to come down to that. But hey, if there's somebody out there who's just doing their trading as a little bit of a hobby and they enjoy doing it, they don't want to take it too serious, then, each to their own, of course, go
Exactly.
for it. But for the person that, has a longer term goal where they would strive to do this full time, then put the effort in early on. It's not going to come to you overnight. It's going to take a series of days, months, weeks, years, whatever it may be. You know, everyone's light bulb moment goes off at a different time, as we mentioned. So stay patient with it, build a process, do your research, practice, and yeah, don't go risking any more than you can afford in your trade, and be sensible with it as well. You know, be sensible and
100%.
hold yourself accountable if you do place a bad trade. And on the broker's front, if there is an issue, if a server potentially goes down or something along those lines, go to your account manager, see what can be done, see if there was an underlying issue. But yeah, at the end of the day, just take responsibility for your own trading.
Yeah, and like you say, I know we've not touched on it too much, but like the real money trading side of it, there's really no rush to get trading real money. People ask me when should I stop demo trading? When you really feel confident that you know what you're doing with your demo trading, and like you say, it comes back to not risking too much. If you're going to start with a real account, maybe start with a smaller real account, start with tiny risk on that real account, and just build from there. Because only one bad trade, like you say, every trade matters. One bad trade, you can wipe out a good proportion, if not the entire thing. So yeah, definitely.
And at the end of the day, whether you're trading on a small account or a big account, if you have a process and a risk management strategy that stays in place, the only thing that's going to be changing is the numbers. From there, you have to trust your process. So yeah, some real interesting points, and I hope our viewers and whoever's been listening in can take away a few key points and learn a thing or two from, particularly yourself. And yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this tonight. It was a pleasure having you on. And to anyone listening out there, I've been your host, Lenny Volpicella, here at ACY Securities. My guest here is Luke from The Disciplined Trader. If you haven't caught his videos before, then I highly recommend checking him out. Go subscribe over it. Is this how I do it, Luke? Like, subscribe, comment below.
You're a pro already.
Excellent. And enjoy the content he puts out. And for us here at ACY Securities, this video will be posted on our YouTube channel. So please go head over, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. And yeah, looking forward to catching you in the next one, Luke.
Thanks very much for having me, Lenny. Really good.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Bye for now.
See you later.